first Mirror's Edge game was somewhat of a success for EA Games, though looking back at the game it was a huge risk as well. A first-person free-running game with an emphasis on avoiding combat rather than running to it, Mirror's Edge was a very different game from the usual offerings from EA and DICE. While Mirror's Edge didn't sell as well as EA had hoped, the property held a lot of potential, and now, 8 years later, Mirror's Edge Catalyst is almost here. A reboot that tells the origin story of Faith Connors, Mirror's Edge Catalyst features a new engine, open world design, and combat that might actually work. Mirror's Edge Catalyst is set for a release date on June 7th, 2016. We recently played the closed beta on Xbox One, and here are our thoughts. The Mirror's Edge Catalyst beta lets players experience the beginning of the final game, including the opening cutscenes and tutorials. Faith Connors is being released from prison, having served 2 years of a sentence related to her crimes committed as a runner. She's bailed out of prison by Dogen, the City of Glass's resident crime lord. Faith owes a debt to Dogen, and that debt isn't cheap.
Dogen sends his best. Enjoy your freedom.
Upon her release, Faith meets Icarus, a fellow runner sent by Noah, the leader of the runners. He hands Faith a beat link and instructs her to put it on. The beat link is quickly hacked, allowing Faith to disappear off the grid.
I know you're gone. Time to get off the ground.
Alarms quickly follow, with Icarus urging Faith to get off the streets and onto high ground. From here, players go through the game's tutorials, experiencing all the free running and combat that make up the majority of Catalyst's gameplay. Returning Mirror's Edge players should come to grips with the Catalyst controls rather easily, though Faith has a few new tricks up her sleeve. Faith can run and jump, slide under or vault over obstacles, as well as springboard off of objects, wall run, climb ladders, hang from structures, and more. She can also unlock new abilities as players progress through the game, such as a rolling landing, body tuck, improved combat, and more. Unlike the first Mirror's Edge, where combat was optional but probably best avoided, Faith can now well and truly handle herself in a scrap. She can punch and kick her enemies, as well as steer them towards environmental hazards or each other with a directional heavy attack, a pretty handy move, especially when facing multiple opponents. Now there are times when Faith is forced to fight her opponents and escape isn't possible, though there are other times when Faith can use her momentum to quickly eliminate her enemies while barely breaking her stride. To do this, players must string together a successful and fluid run by smoothly traversing obstacles and landing safely. This builds up her runner's focus, which can help her dodge bullets and engage in combat while still free running. There's something truly satisfying about absolutely nailing these sequences, whether it's using a baddie to break an otherwise nasty fall, shoving an enemy off a roof as you vault over a rail, or successfully navigating a particularly challenging section without error. It's not just the running and combat that has been improved since the first Mirror's Edge though. Catalyst has more of a focus on a compelling narrative, with Faith finding herself dragged into a war against corrupt corporations with a number of different factions involved. She's also a much more detailed and interesting character. She's defiant and spontaneous, but her heart is also in the right place, making her endearing. Faith comes across as flawed but very real, which is a very welcome change to the rather bland experience offered in the first Mirror's Edge.
Look, I thought that this would be a
No,
good...
you didn't think, Faith. You never do.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst is an open-world action game, meaning that players are free to explore the game's environment at their own pace, with story missions, side missions, and other activities able to be undertaken at any time. While offering an open world isn't always the smartest move for a developer, it looks as though DICE have crafted a pretty detailed and interesting game world for Catalyst. The game also runs at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second, and while it isn't the most detailed game, it certainly is pleasing to the eye. Clearly DICE had to find a balance between graphical fidelity and smooth performance, and the game doesn't disappoint during gameplay sequences for the most part. There has been some noticeable frame rate stutter during cutscenes, though I'm certain the issue will be ironed out before the game's June release. Mirror's Edge Catalyst is shaping up to be a fantastic game. The story is interesting, it's visually impressive, the gameplay has been refined, and it looks as though it's going to offer a ton of side activities and missions for dedicated players. Stay tuned for a full review in June. That's all for today guys, but be sure to like this video and subscribe for more, and be sure to check out StickyTrigger.com and our social channels for all the latest in entertainment.